The supermarket was nearly empty, its aisles humming with soft fluorescent light. Daniel walked slowly, tie loosened, his leather shoes echoing on the polished floor. He didn't belong here. Executives like him usually had assistants or delivery services take care of groceries. But tonight, something had pulled him out of his penthouse and into the simple ordinariness of a neighborhood store. As he stood in line, scrolling half-heartedly through his phone, he noticed the woman ahead of him. Her coat was thin for the season, the seams worn, and her hair tucked into a messy bun. She balanced a restless toddler on one hip while placing items on the conveyor belt. Bread, eggs, a box of pasta, and finally a can of baby formula. The cashier announced the total. The young mother's smile faltered. She dug through her small wallet, pulling out crumpled bills and a handful of coins. Her child tugged at her sleeve, asking brightly, "Milk for me, Mommy." The woman's face crumpled. After a long pause, she whispered, "Take the formula off, please." Daniel's breath caught. He'd signed million-dollar contracts without blinking, but watching her push the formula back across the counter was like watching a door slam shut on a child's future. For the first time in years, his heart hurt. Before the cashier could remove the item, Daniel's voice cut through the silence. "Wait, put it back on." The woman turned, startled, her wide eyes locking with his. She shook her head fiercely, clutching her toddler closer. "No, I can't let you do that. You don't even know me." Her voice was low, embarrassed, as though pride and desperation were waging war inside her. Daniel stepped forward, his tailored suit and polished demeanor so out of place in this small grocery store that the cashier hesitated mid-swipe. He lowered his voice, gentler now, not the commanding CFO tone he used at board meetings. "It's not about knowing you. It's about knowing what it means when a child goes hungry." Her lips trembled. "I don't take handouts," she whispered. He gave a faint, tired smile. "Then don't think of it as a handout. Think of it as a stranger making sure your little one gets what he deserves." The cashier, uncertain but moved, slowly rang the formula back in. Daniel handed over his card without another word. The toddler reached for the bag with innocent excitement, and the mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. She mouthed a soft, trembling "thank you," but Daniel only nodded as though it was the most natural thing in the world. Inside, though, he felt shaken. He'd spent years calculating risks and returns, but this was the first time in a long time he felt like he'd made an investment that truly mattered. The next morning, Daniel tried to bury himself in spreadsheets and quarterly forecasts, but his mind kept drifting back to the woman in the grocery store. Her trembling hands, the shame in her eyes, and the little boy's hopeful question. It clung to him. Numbers blurred on the screen, and for the first time he couldn't focus. On his way to a meeting, he ducked into a modest corner coffee shop for a quick caffeine fix. As the doorbell chimed, his breath caught. There she was. The same woman, hair tied back, apron tied snugly around her waist, moving quickly between tables with a cloth in hand. Her toddler wasn't with her now. She kept her head down, shoulders slightly hunched as though bracing against the world's judgment. When she turned and saw him at the counter, her face flushed crimson. "Oh, you," she murmured, barely audible. Daniel gave a small, reassuring smile. "Morning. Coffee. Black." She nodded and busied herself with the order, but when he sat down with his cup, he gestured toward the empty chair across from him. She hesitated, then joined him, arms folded tightly as though to protect herself. They spoke haltingly at first. Her name was Emily. She'd once studied accounting but had dropped out when she got pregnant. Her husband had left not long after, and since then she'd been raising her son alone, working any job she could find. "I'm not looking for pity," she said firmly, eyes shining with quiet defiance. "I just want my boy to have a chance." Daniel studied her resilience, the way her voice cracked but never broke. He realized she wasn't weak. She was stronger than most executives he knew, and something in him shifted. For years he'd lived behind glass walls of wealth and success, but here, across a scratch cafe table, was a truth he hadn't felt in years. Connection. Days turned into a week. Daniel returned to the coffee shop more than once, not for caffeine but for the quiet conversations that made his days less hollow. Emily still tried to keep her guard up, but little by little her laughter slipped through, soft and surprising. He learned her son's name, Ethan, and how his favorite bedtime story was about rockets and stars. One chilly afternoon, Daniel walked in not with a coffee order, but with a leather folder in hand. Emily frowned, wiping her hands on her apron. "You're early today," she teased, trying to hide her nervousness. He slid the folder across the table. "Open it." Inside were neatly printed documents, a formal job offer. Administrative assistant in the finance department. Training provided. Full benefits. Health coverage for dependents. A salary that could replace her two exhausting jobs. Emily's hands trembled as she read, her eyes darting to his. "Daniel, I can't. This is too much. You don't even—" "I do know," he interrupted softly. "I know what it's like to feel alone, even when you're surrounded by people. I know what it's like to think no one sees you. But I see you, Emily. You're smart, capable, and hardworking. My department needs someone like that. This isn't charity, it's opportunity." Tears spilled over her lashes as her fingers brushed the paper. She pressed a hand to her mouth, struggling to find words. Finally, in a trembling voice, she whispered, "You just changed my baby's life. And mine." Daniel gave a rare, unguarded smile. "Maybe you've changed mine too." And for the first time in years, the CFO felt something no balance sheet could ever capture: hope.